handsets that are going on here and the apps that they're developing. What's the approach to developing apps? Are they the same between the two companies? Came up a bit in the video. No, they are a little bit different. Can anybody tell me a bit about the approach to developing apps? Who develops Apple apps? Third parties. Okay, third parties who are allowed to actually put the product on the app store. Who develops Google's Android apps? Third parties, and both of them got a mix of third parties and inside, but the marketplace is a little bit more open. The protocols are a little bit more open. So they made it open. I mean, let's just look a little bit at some of Google's tactics, if you like, to try and get into this situation. They knew that Apple's iPhone was dominant in terms of an operating system. They knew they wanted an operating system. One of the tactics that they've employed is to make it open. Another tactic that they've employed is to use the operating system on lots of different handsets. What are the tactics they used in the video?
Give them out for free?
Give them out for free, yeah. If you give the handsets out for free, just to get that install base kind of moving along. So this is an example of tons and tons of different ideas around standardization in this
Not just the
case.
handset, the actual software.
Okay, tell me more about it.
Well, it's free. It's
Okay.
free for development, not for it's free for manufacturers.
Yeah.
And it taps into a huge market because a lot of Asian companies couldn't enter this market because they didn't have the software skills, like Acer, Toshiba, Sony, etc. And they all can now use this software for free to get the products out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it is a very different approach.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think we can compare Android and the iOS.
Why not?
Because usually the iOS is just we can't compare the market of the operating system. We can compare the market of the share of Apple and Google. Okay, but since Apple built their own phone and their operating system, we can compare the phones of Google. But since Google doesn't build machines, we can't really compare the two. So if, I don't know, I think Apple is winning because it builds together the thing. And of course, the loyalty, the brand, and everything is a competitive advantage. It's like comparing, I don't know, Microsoft Windows with something else, that with a brand that builds both the machine and the
like Apple in the old days.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I think that's...
It is an interesting one, and one of the things that happens in these digital spaces where you've got a lot of complementary assets, so you can't have an operating system without a handset and all the other pieces that you need. You've got a lot of complementary assets, and you've also got network effects, so you're more likely to use it if you believe that others will use it, therefore there will continue to be a good supply of apps or a good supply of phones or whatever it might be. It gets very complex in terms of the industries converging, so it's tricky to actually draw boundaries around the different industries.
Yeah, there was another thing. As I was saying before, Apple is so good now because even if it's closed in this market, they decide the doors are very good. For example, iPhone doesn't have they have to be with the pin, all the cables and everything. They have to be Apple approved. But the Apple is so widespread now that even if you have an Apple product, you can still communicate with the other because it's so huge. I mean, there are iPad. We don't talk about iPad, but the iOS is the same. So if we add this, that's why.
There's an interesting statistic. I'm going to come to this group here because it was the tablets operating system market share that you had there, right? Yeah. So could you tell me a little bit what's on your sheet of paper, and then so just tell me what you brought.
For Apple's market share in the fourth quarter.
You need to really speak up.
Apple in the fourth quarter in 2010 is 68.2%, but in fourth quarter 2011 is 57.6%, so it's decreased around like roughly 10%.
And this is on tablet devices, not on phones, right?
Yes, tablets.
So this is the market share of different operating systems on tablet devices. Overall, between 2010 and 2011, what's the overall number of tablets sold in 2010? It's in the top table there.
For Apple,
for the overall market together?
It's 10.7,
Okay, and then it goes up to,
26.8.
okay, so we have a significant increase in the size of the market from 10.7 million to 27
millions of units.
yeah, in million units. So more than doubling of the size of the market. And then if you look at the market share of the operating systems, you see a significant shift towards Android-based tablets compared to Apple-based tablets, because so the share moved by 10%, right? So Apple's share in the first period was 57%. In fourth quarter of 2010.
No, it's 68.
Oh yeah, sorry, it was 68 in 2010 and it came down to 57. And the thing is that we get to a stage where we've got a dominant player, and you've only got to think of Kodak. You know, at the time of Kodak, they had 95% of the market. People will never go for that digital. It's not as good as what we've got. We've got this nice integrated system. We own the cameras, and we own the film, and we own the processing. Sound familiar? And then in come other players from different industries, from printing, from computing, from electronics, and start messing up the structure of the industry. I'm really sorry, I have to move on. I know you want to get. Okay. What I'm going to do after the break, as it is time for a break, is we're going to make sure that we're clear about all of these different words, because all of these words have come up in our conversation. Then we'll go through the theory, and I'm actually going to put curves, like an economist would, up on the board here, make sure that we're all clear on what would decide whether there'll be one standard or two, because we've had the idea of, you think this would be like games consoles in the end, where there might be more than one standard because it doesn't matter. And we'll just look at what would determine that in the second half. And then we've got stuff on mobile payments, so I'm actually considering leaving that into next week, because it could be a good example of first mover advantages as well. So I'm thinking that's where we might go. So let's take a 20-minute break, and that leaves us with what?